Good morning. Happy Saturday on this frosty Saturday, not just in Edmonton, but it sounds like all across North America. The good thing about being cold in Edmonton, we're used to it. I'd hate to be in Texas right now. I'd hate to be in Tennessee and the Carolinas where a snowflake is a foreign substance. We're here in Edmonton. We're just used to freezing all the time. I'm your host, Paul Sir, here on Hoop City Sports 1440, your sports leader in Edmonton. We have a fantastic show today. Excited to have in our studio today Ben Feldman, who is the head coach of the men's basketball program over at Ross-Shep High School. But there's so much more that Ben does, and Ben is our community champion today, and we'll be interviewing him specifically about that when we get into the second section today. But first of all, let's get started with our good friend Josh Fenwick. Josh, how are you today, buddy?
Oh,
you're looking spry.
Yeah, well, so I was doing dry January, right? And my roommate hits me with it was his birthday 2 weeks ago. He says, we're having a party. And I find this out by getting an Evite from him. And I'm like, all right, party, my apartment. I can't do dry January that day. I have to do damp January.
So you took a mulligan?
So yeah. And you know, the way I'm feeling, it's like, yeah, I could go a couple weeks without drinking, at least a week.
Well,
and
I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. You thought you were thinking of others when you made your decision, Josh. So
yeah, well, I made sure Brandon texted me last night about his curling game to see if I had to come in for the setup or not, because that was also going to drastically dictate what I did last night.
So obviously you didn't have to do that.
I did not.
But you're here because you are a team player.
That is what I am. Yep.
That's what you do. You just give and give. Why don't we start out today with our poll question, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. So poll question today. You can find it on our Twitter, Hoop City Show, or our X account. And then it's also going to be in our YouTube comment section. So you can go to Sports 1440 AM and find it there. Poll question is, which of the following strategies should the Raptors employ with the trade deadline approaching? Should they trade Barrett quickly and draft picks for Giannis? Trade quickly and draft picks for John Morant? Trade Hurdle and RJ for Cat? Or should they just stay the course?
Interesting. I thought it was an interesting question because the trade deadline is looming. The Raptors are rolling. So it's, to me, all of the talk that's been bandied about by the Raptors, have led us to this point, and they just keep winning. And they win with and without injured players. Quickly's out. Comes back, gets 40. RJ's back. They roll again last night. Like, the Raptors look good. How do you tamper with that? But there are some anxious people out there. And I'm not saying Milwaukee is anxious, Ben, to get rid of Giannis, and Giannis doesn't sound like he's anxious to leave, but that's awfully tempting. And do you make some kind of dramatic move like that? And what would the net effect be when you've got a team that's playing so well?
I think teams that don't make a move at the deadline, I think, are always quite scrutinized, especially if you're rolling. You know, I feel like you still have to make a little push. I would probably stay away from John Morant. I think that's something
you wouldn't want him in your locker room, would you?
I definitely would not.
Yes.
And I feel like in terms of player attraction, the international players seem to like playing in Toronto more than some of the U.S. players. So I think there's a market there for Giannis for sure.
Sounds like Giannis, certainly when Masai Ujiri was there, that Masai and Giannis have a wonderful relationship. But I don't see anything. To be honest, I think they're going to stay the course myself. I'd vote D right now. And by the way, you can text any questions that you have, observations, 833-401-1440. As I mentioned, we have a great show today. We have a special guest along with Ben. Our minister, the Alberta Minister of Sport and Tourism, Andrew Boychenko, joined me for a conversation earlier this week. And the reason I thought it was so important to bring Minister Boychenko on is he, along with people like Ben, are such an integral part of our community that make the difference in providing opportunities for people of all ages to play. And we can't undervalue the amount of contribution that the province of Alberta, along with other levels of government, other organizations make to create this sports landscape that we've got. So in our second segment, in our segment after we talk with Ben, we'll be talking with Minister Boychenko. And then I'm really excited about our deep dive today because we're bringing in a good friend of mine, Kevin Lehman. And Kevin is one of the broadcasters for the Missouri Valley Conference in the NCAA Division I. And Kevin's been doing it for 30 years. He coached Nick Nurse, the former Raptor, Philadelphia 76er coach, when he was at school at University of Northern Iowa. Of course, everybody knows my Iowa bias, but we're going to have Kevin in, and we're going to go really into the weeds about all that's going on in the NCAA. It's such a year, not just on the basketball court, but it's such a year of change and transition with NIL money, with the power teams becoming almost more powerful. And how does this affect mid-majors? How does this affect low majors? What does this do to JUCOs? It's really a fascinating time in collegiate sports. So Kevin's going to come in, and for 2 segments, we're really going to get after it. Now, I also have started publishing my weekly playlist. This week it's 1967. I took 4 hits out of 1967, and I'm going to post them on my X account, and I'm going to include the top 100 that include great name bands. Of course, you know the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, but do you know the Electric Prunes band? Have you ever heard of the Electric Prunes?
A little bit before my time.
A little bit. Strawberry Alarm Clock. Everybody's heard of Incense and Peppermints by the Strawberry Alarm Clock. But anyway, I'm going to post that after the show. Last week, we gave away a T-shirt, and I hope the gentleman that we sent it to received it. If not, you'll get it soon. Remember, it's through Canada Post. It was sent. So cut me a little grace there. But I'd like to know from you, and again, 833-401-1440, which NBA legend do you want to discuss today and why? And we're going to do that in our last segment today. And if your player gets selected, we're going to send you a Hoop City T-shirt. I've got it on. If you see on YouTube right now, we got a great logo. It's a great shirt. We'll get your size, your address, and we'll mail it out to you. All right, Josh, let's get into 3 from deep. Josh is back online. He is working it.
Oh, we're doing some work. Kids, don't drink. That's what I have to say to you right now. It messes everything up.
This is a life lesson.
Yes,
for everybody.
Life lesson.
I could have told you that, but you didn't reach out.
Well, what do you learn from that? What do you learn from just people telling you?
Yeah, that would be a tough lesson.
You have to learn it yourself.
That would be hard.
Yourself,
You've got to go through it yourself. Like you've never before done that.
So this is, we also have an and one this week.
That's
right. An and one. So number 1, last night's NBA surprises. Denver topped Milwaukee. Indiana was over OKC in Oklahoma City. And the Raptors topped the Blazers.
All right, let's start with Denver over Milwaukee. And Josh, could you do me a favor? Could you look up online and read out the starting lineup that the Denver Nuggets had last night?
I sure can.
They won in a 102-100. Milwaukee's not strong. We know that, Ben. But Denver has been without the best player in the game for a long time now. And Jamal Murray has been missing games off and on. And last night, is it Peyton Watson? Is that the...
Peyton Watson is on fire. He was not a starter for them last night.
And he wasn't playing.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Never mind.
He did not play. So read their starting lineup.
Here we go. All right. So Aaron Gordon played 16 minutes. Zach Nagy, Spencer Jones, Jalen Pickett, Julian Strother.
How many of those names you may have heard of them if you're really into the NBA, Ben? But that's not a lineup you would expect to hear from the Denver Nuggets. There's no Braun. There's no Jamal. There is no Jokic, of course. There's no Watson, who, as you said, Josh, has been just tearing it up. And they go into Milwaukee and win and hold Giannis to 20. And Gordon plays 16 minutes. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it just goes to show that guys step up when they need to.
Next man up.
Yep, absolutely.
You know that as a coach. That's what you tell your people. But in reality, oftentimes that isn't the case. So I just am so impressed with Denver and what they've been able to do the kind of record that they've amassed in Jokic's absence. It's really dynamic and exciting to think about if they get healthy, how good this team could be as playoffs approach. But this, to me, was the upset of the year. Indiana in OKC, handling OKC. And that right now we're sitting in the studio and the highlights are coming up on our TVs in the studios. It wasn't like they held SGA down. He had over 40. Ryan Nembhard, our other Canadian, talk about Canadian content, was fabulous. I think he had 27. But what an upset. 10-win Indiana team goes into OKC. A, it shows how good the NBA is. B, it shows what kind of a coach Rick Carlisle is to keep his team focused, motivated, and playing hard. Because in spite of their record, it hasn't been because of a lack of effort. It's been because of a lack of talent and injuries that have been coming in and out. But to go into OKC last night, that's just fantastic. Raptors over Blazer. They didn't have a Adija for the Blazers. That's a big hole to fill there. But still, Raptors go to Portland, get the win. You know what, Ben? They're a fun team to watch this year, I think. The Raptors are enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, they're just young, and I think they just bring a certain energy. And I think it's
Back
fun
to
to
hoops.
that type of. I think no one took them serious.
And we're going to get into that in just a second. That's exactly right. All right, so let's go to question number 2. Josh, sorry to
No,
yank
you're
you
good.
away here.
No, all the work is done now. Number 2. The 3 best teams. Are they the Thunder, the Pistons, and the Nuggets?
And this is a midseason report card that we're doing here. So I selected these 3 as the best 3 teams. And it's hard because you've got other teams that you certainly have to take into account here. But even though the Thunder have struggled, it's more they've struggled in relationship to their 24-1 start. Like, they're not struggling. They have the best record in the NBA. They're still the clear favorite to repeat as NBA champions. But, Ben, do you see a vulnerability here? Now, and we have to, always put the asterisks in. They've had injury issues. Hartenstein hasn't played for a long time. Williams is out again. Jalen Williams is out again. So they haven't been at full strength for a while. But one thing I have found that I think is their Achilles heel is still inconsistent, somewhat unreliable three-point shooting when teams, and they will do more and more of this, double up on Shea. It opens up wide open threes on the kick, but the ability to knock them down consistently, I think, is a bit of an Achilles heel for them.
Well, and I think, again, is OKC as strong as they've been, as strong as they are? Again, are they going into the trade deadline not making the move to help with that situation? I think that's something that's huge, especially in today's game. If you're not hitting threes, that's a big factor in the way the game is played now.
100%. And it's not like they don't have draft picks to trade. They got about 50.
Yeah.
So they've got, so they got them like lying on the floor in the locker rooms. So it'll be interesting. Pistons have been a revelation. Tough. They find a way to win game after game. Cade Cunningham's been out a couple. They lost last night to Houston, but they're a very, very good team. And what a great turnaround from like literally the toilet 2 years ago. They lost like 30. What was it? Like some ridiculous 38 in a row, or there was some ridiculous streak 2 years later. A la the Phoenix Suns, who have turned around nicely as well. The Pistons have been fantastic. And then I had to throw Denver here. I struggled with Denver or Boston on this, but I just think Denver's been so impressive without Jokic to do what they've done and piecing their lineups together. It really is a reflection of a championship mindset and culture in that franchise. And I just think teams like OKC, teams like Denver, teams like Pistons are so good for the league. They play hard. They work together. They play to win every night. It's really refreshing. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, the 3 most surprising teams. Are they the Spurs, Celtics, and Raptors?
Well, I think the Spurs are ahead of the curve. I think we're expecting them to be better this year. I didn't think we expected them to beat OKC 3 games in a row like they did. And they've been up. I wouldn't say they've been up and down. They've been in every game. They're not like because they beat OKC, Ben. They're not that team you go, yeah, they beat OKC. They're now the front runner in the West. They're not that. Wemby is amazing. You can't even begin to describe what this guy at who was saying that he's not 7'4". Like, that's ridiculous. He's 7'6". He might, whatever it is, it's amazing to watch. It's incredible to watch. However, what still is making him best, and Ben, you played post. There's nothing harder than when you get that reluctant post player that wants to step outside and shoot the three. Wemby seems, though, to have embraced the post more so this year, hasn't he?
I think that's important for him, right? Because I think with his length and his height, obviously it changes the game, and it's gonna draw post presence from for other players on the team to kind of take advantage of that open space. So
inside out
huge.
Cuts, 100%. All of those things.
Yeah.
I think the Celtics have been an incredible success story this year. Jaylen Brown has, through the quality of his play, thrust himself deservedly into the MVP discussion now. And the Raptors, of course, my gosh, the Raptors, I don't think anybody, Josh, did you expect this from the Raptors this year?
No, I really didn't. Like, they're ahead of schedule, essentially. Like, I'm blown away by them.
Well, and I go back to saying I like watching them. And for me, the eye test is a testament to teams that play hard, play together, and share the basketball. And the Raptors do all of those things. The guy I'm still getting used to is Ingram. He's really good. Something about him bugs me. I'm not sure if it's his demeanor and just the way it rubs on me. So I don't want to project that on that too much, because that could just be a personal taste thing. I always go back to the water bottle incident where he threw the water bottle, it bounced up, hit the kid in the face, and he didn't even acknowledge it. To me, but he's playing really well. The fact that he's healthy, looks like he's a good teammate on the court. He must be a good teammate off the court, because the players look like they enjoy playing together, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, you hope someone with that kind of talent, but he's been around the league for a long time, right? And again, with the low expectations for the Raptors and maybe the rebuild that maybe isn't now such a rebuild,
right?
Maybe it's kind of just reemerged him to just be more of a presence. But yeah, you definitely hope that you'd get more out of someone to be a better teammate and maybe just a better ambassador of the team for the Raptors, especially.
100%. Canadians like good ambassadors, that's for sure. I am curious to see if the Raptors will do anything with Jakob Poeltl. I mean, Pirtle's injury problems are, now problematic. Although, I always forget how to pronounce his name. What do they call him? Mamo, the Serbian kid that plays
Mamu.
Mamu.
I cannot pronounce his last name.
I love him. He had 22 again last night. Like, the guy can score. He's a smart European style player that when he comes in, he puts points up on the board. And so the Raptors have been able to, I think, to duct tape a bit. Grady Dick is a little more of a factor here. One criticism of the Raptors is inconsistent three-point shooting. That's why they drafted him. And I know there's a lot of regret, because there's some other picks that they could have taken at that time. So I think Grady Dick has to continue to insert and assert himself in this lineup and be a contributor, because they're going to need that going down the stretch. And I hope RJ and Quickly can stay healthy, because when they play, the Raptors are tough. RJ's having, I think, his best season by far. And our and one here. Josh?
Yeah, I just want to add in that the Raptors are well above 500 when RJ is playing, and they are 11-12 without RJ. So he is a big key
Tells
to
the
their
tale.
big
Tells
key
the
to their
tale.
winning. And one, three most disappointing teams. Are they the Cavaliers, the Magic, and the Golden State Warriors?
Well, I'll start with the team that I'm personally the most disappointed in, and that's the Magic, because this was supposed to be their year. Now, again, in all three cases, you have to put the injury asterisks by their name, because they have not had complete lineups. Cavs, I think that the expectations were the highest. for them this year after the magnificent 60-plus win season they had last year. They've been flat and they've been unpredictable. Magic, we'll see. Once Wagner gets completely healthy, if Suggs ever can stay healthy for more than 5 games. I mean, what a bullet was dodged there when the Raptors drafted Scotty Barnes instead of Jalen Suggs. Like that was, you got to give Masai Ujiri kudos for that one. But Golden State, the asterisk I put by them is one with, if I had to use an emoji, I'd have one with the sad face, because it's like, they're old. Yeah. Jimmy Butler now is out for the season. They have Kuminga has been a problem child from all offseason into this year. He finally gets in the game. He's hurt again. Curry is going off, playing some of the best basketball of his career. I just feel for the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr, phenomenal human being, one of the great coaches of all time. But I look at Cavs and I go, you guys should be better. I look at the Magic and go, you guys have been talking smack for a long time. This is going to be your year. You're not getting it done. Golden State, yeah, that's just too bad.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see because that's the end of an era, right?
It is. And not a glamorous end.
No.
Kind of sputtering to the end.
Yeah.
And so, but hey, that's professional sports. The injury bug hits everybody hard. And I'm really excited about the second half of the season because now you see teams like the Clippers coming on. I mentioned the Blazers. I'm not on the Blazers bandwagon, but I am on Adaija's bandwagon because he can really play. I don't know if you've seen him play, Ben.
Not enough, no.
I'm telling everybody, when the Blazers are on TV and he's healthy, watch them and him play. Shaden Sharp, the Canadian, career year, playing really, really good basketball. But Adaija, he's really good. Like, he's emerging as a star. And he's another one of those guys, kind of like SGA, where the team that drafted him gave up on him too early and kept him and made him trade bait, and now they're paying for it. That's what Washington, the hapless Washington franchise, did with him as well, and traded him over to Portland. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Ben Feldman, who's in our studio. He is our community champion this week. You are listening to the Sports Leader, Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir. Welcome back. Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, Ben Feldman in the studio. All right, I got to give you a couple of quick musical tidbits here. I'm a Believer by the Monkees. The Monkees in 1966 were the first made-for-TV boy band that was constructed to capture the Beatlemania. So they hired these guys, these four guys. One was a Canadian, Peter Tork, to be on a show. It was a comedy show. If you watch anything on YouTube, it's just absolutely terrible. It was bad then, but it was fun and it was contemporary. And they had success as musicians, even though they never played any of the instruments in the studio for any of their recordings. But they were all accomplished musicians. But here's my favorite bit of trivia, Ben, about the Monkees. Do you know who opened for them in one of their concerts? Jimi Hendrix.
Really?
So can you imagine Jimi Hendrix, Foxy Lady, Purple Haze, opening for I'm a Believer, Last Train to Clarksville. But anyway, that's part of our 1967 hit celebration today. We started last week, and I'm I'm really pleased with this. We every week we're going to do our Community Champions segment. And this is sponsored by Randy Parrish and his team at Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your corporate benefits, your personal insurance plans, and investment strategies, talk to Randy and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you straightforward, honest advice with access to the best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. Randy and his team are fantastic people. Ben Feldman in the studio with me. I met Ben when he was a young man, very young man, when he was at Ross Shepherd High School. And I have to tell you, and Ben, I mean this with all sincerity. I am not blowing any smoke on this at all. You stood out right from the first time I met you, to me, that there was a special spirit, a special personality, a special person in that young man that I met. And you have not swayed me from that impression. That impression has remained true. Ben is now teaches and coaches. He's the head coach of a very strong Ross Shepherd men's basketball team. But Ben, that's not the reason I wanted you to come into the studio and talk today as our community champion. What you talk about walking the walk. Ben, you walk the walk. You go above, beyond. You do the little things, the thankless things. And the thing I've always known about you, Ben, is everybody who's involved in sports says, I'm doing it for the kids. Most of them kind of mean it, and a lot of them don't. You do, because you go above and beyond. Ben, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
All right. You played at Ross Shep for Coach Dave Youngs. What would talk about your experience playing in high school?
Well, actually, not really. So it's actually a funny story. So I maybe could have actually played for Dave Young. See, I don't know. A lot of people don't know this. Yeah, this is actually interesting. So I actually never tried out for the team in grade 10.
Okay.
So I was pretty young. So I was a end of February baby.
Okay.
And I started school early. So when I was in grade 10, I should have been in grade 9. And obviously, so I was a year younger. And, battled confidence and belief in myself, which a lot of young adults, whether they're younger, the age they're supposed to be.
Well, particularly tall guys. I mean,
as you know, big guys, they mature a bit later. And for me, it definitely was a lot later.
Well, I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
So,
well, now great. So now I have to keep. I know it's going to be a long process. Hey, well, you look for 45. I mean,
I know. Well,
good.
Yeah. Thank you. Talk about blowing smoke.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Continue.
So you know what? So I never actually tried out in grade 10 on the junior team, and then and I was a late bloomer to basketball as well. I was a hockey first kid, and my parents were both immigrants from the former Soviet Union. So I didn't start. I never really got into like a lot of other families here were pushing like higher level hockey. I played rec hockey. Basketball, I played community basketball. I never got into the big scene. Not that club was big at the time, but there was the grads and other scenes for that. So anyways, grade 11 though, summer going to grade 11, I went, you know what, I want to try out. I want to play on the team here at Shep. And as you know, former coach Mike Lina, another big man, he was the coach, relatively intimidating fella. but I wanted to give it a go. And actually, I trained really hard that summer. And anyways, long story short, ended up making the team as a grade 11 for the junior team. And then just it didn't pan out. He's a pretty intimidating guy. For those who don't know who Mike Lyon is, he's a guy. He's big Irishman,
6'9", 6'10",
former pronghorn. Like
Yep.
he was a very intense coach and
vocal.
very, very vocal. And again, the thing is that always scared people was he was loud,
Yes,
but it wasn't negative. A lot of the time, it was not negative. But obviously, when you hear someone who's loud, you go,
booming.
"Oh."
Mike has a booming voice,
Yes.
no doubt about
So
it.
the amount of letters home from visiting teams and parents was through the roof, I think, at the time for him. So anyways, I was just, it was a lot for me at the time, and I was struggling in school. And you know what? I ended up quitting the basketball team. It was and I think it's funny. To me, it's the journey, right? It's
Absolutely
and,
is.
and that's kind of, I think, what led me to where I am now as a teacher, as a coach, as a person, is that decision, right? And I so going into grade 12, I would go to the open gyms that Dave Youngs was hosting with the senior boys and the junior boys, and I felt like I was going to try out, and didn't end up pulling the trigger. I just just that belief in myself was not there, that confidence, and that was something that like I said, I struggled with, and didn't end up playing, but was very involved with the team. I was very much I was at every game. I was kind of like a super fan, and again, just it was something that I regretted. I don't hold that regret as much because, again, I'm big on the journey and the things that happened to lead up to where I am now. But at the time, that was something I really regretted. And even Dave even told me, Dave Youngs even said, he said, "Thought you were going to try out. Like, what are you thinking? Like, we needed you." And again, at the end of the day, that's just where it goes. But I became coaching. I started coaching with the Thunderbirds after I graduated 2 years later. So I think 3 years later, actually. So 2009, I started coaching. 2008, 2009, I started coaching the junior team, and here we are now.
Well, and that I think you hit on the essential element to life.
Yeah.
It is the journey, whether you want it to be or not. Whether you look back and say, I did the right thing or I didn't do the right thing, they all kind of get thrown in the pot, and you have to then discern and take the lessons from it and make the most of it, which I believe it's fair to say, Ben, you have. I remember you when you got started at that time.
Yeah.
That was right around when I was starting at the Alberta Basketball Association. It's their executive director. I was working with the then Edmonton Energy at the time. And again, you could see there was that commitment on your part that you were going to give it 100%. What motivated you now, A, to go into teaching, and B, was it your hope, was it your dream that you would be at Ross Shepherd High School? Was that part of your plan? Was that a goal of yours? Or did this just happen organically and it just kind of worked out that way?
Yeah, great question. You know what? In terms of teaching, I don't know what really propelled me to teach. I just knew that was something I always wanted to do. I mean, I didn't really have any other aspirations, and I always loved sports. I always loved the game of basketball, and I always loved working with kids. Like even as a high school kid, I was watching some of the kids at the YMCA in the West End, and I'd be working with them because I'd be watching how Dave Youngs or Bruce McLeod would be coaching kids, and I'd be like, "Hey, you got to work on this." So I think it just was something that I think sometimes teaching is a really it's in your DNA. And your wife is a teacher, substitute teacher, and I think you can probably agree with that, right? Where not everyone can do it, not everyone can coach, and I just think there was just something there, and being part of and giving back to community and to people was always something that was ingrained in me.
Ben Feldman from Ross Shepherd High School, head men's basketball coach, but much, much more, is joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, along with Josh Fenwick. That as you were explaining that about some people just being in their DNA to coach. I mean, I've got a son that teaches as well, daughter-in-law teaching at Ross Shep. I taught for 2 years.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, thank goodness it got me out of there. But but you're right. But what I'm hearing is that there's almost, in terms of influences in your life, there's almost a process of osmosis where if you are inclined towards something, you will hear what Dave Youngs, the longtime great coach at Ross Shep, Bruce McLeod, longtime assistant of Dave's. You start absorbing that. And like you say, you then recognize situations where what they showed you applies to what you can show someone else. But then you have to have the inclination. And this is where I think your instinct is really accurate. Then you have to have the inclination to, at that point, share it. It's one thing to see it. It's another thing to share it in such a way that you, most of the time, somebody who hears it will be receptive. Is that a fair observation?
Well, the biggest thing I think is just I was very observant over little details,
yes.
right? Like I always felt like I was paying attention to these little details of coaches and like the Dave Youngs is the Mike Linas, like even watching you when you were involved with the energy, like just being around good people. I think you just pick up on little things, and I had a lot of great teachers and mentors in my life. Whether especially at Ross Shepherd, and again, you just pay attention to these things, and yeah, I think it's important to. I've always felt that giving back is super important, and for me, coaching was something that just was a natural fit. Especially with I think my story, I think is just good to really get kids to not quit and to persevere, which is something that is very common, right? Things get tough, especially now. I feel like kids have a lot on their plate. Right.
They have a lot on their plate. And I think it's it's an interesting psychological tendency has permeated all culture, but I would even say sports culture, that if it's not working for you, walk away from it. If it's not working for you, switch teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, heck, you see it in the college basketball, and that's trickling down. The ability to leave, to move, because things just don't suit you completely, have displaced you got to persist. You got to fight through adversity. You've got to work your way up. You've got to earn your time. All of those things. Do you find that both as a teacher and a coach, Ben, that is a bigger challenge to communicate with young people today?
Without a doubt, unfortunately. And again, I assume that was always a thing. It's just different now, right?
It's more common,
yeah.
And the options are so limitless now.
And again, the kids see it. Kids see it that, I can change schools, I can change club teams, I can do all these different things. And I think it's super important for kids to have someone, especially a non-parent, because let's be honest, I get this all the time as a teacher. I get parents saying, I ask my kids this all the time. I talk to them, I tell them, they don't listen. But they listen to you.
That's universal.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's timeless. That has nothing to do with anything, because that is you're finding that out as a parent as time goes on. You're right.
Yes. So I know my kids are really little right now, so I know that will happen eventually.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just, I think that's super important for me. And for me as a basketball coach at Ross Shepherd, I'm an educator first. And that's the tricky thing. It's not my business for me as a coach, I'm trying to teach first, and I would love to win. I'm unbelievably competitive. But for me, it's not my business to go and recruit kids or to promise things. My job is to teach them to be good men, good people, and learn that through basketball.
Well, you do that very well, and you emanate that in how you communicate with your kids and how you communicate with your peers. So final question, Ben. Ben Feldman, Ross Shep High School, head men's basketball coach and mentor to many, many young people. If you, as you look forward, as you look at your career unfolding, do you see yourself doing more coaching for a longer period of time, or do you see yourself moving into admin at a more formal level? Like, obviously you have passion for both teaching and coaching, but where do you see this taking you?
Yeah, it's a great question. My principal at Ross Shepherd is Rick Stanley, former Golden Bear, which you know very
player.
well.
Yeah,
very great player, great coach. Been around the game for a long time, and he obviously at some point made the switch to go into the more admin side. Now he's in leadership. At this point, I definitely can tell you I don't see administration. I'm currently I just got hired as the department head of physical education at Ross Shepherd. So that's a cool. Thank you. Yeah, so that's a really cool new step in my life and a new challenge. And I think it's important to reinvent yourself. But in terms of basketball, this is my first year coaching the senior boys, and I never was waiting for Dave Youngs to retire. I always felt that he could coach as long as he needed. I was happy coaching the junior boys for.
Well, I was letting the air out of his tires to make sure he got out of there as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Come on, Youngs, get going. No.
Exactly. So thank you for that. So then Ryan Dunkley took over for a couple years. Again, another former Golden Bear. So it just happened. And, I have a young family. I have 3 kids at home, and it's busy. All about that. And, my wife is unbelievably supportive. But right now, I really want to focus on being a department head and coaching that senior boys team for as long as I can until. And again, I hope it works for my family. But my wife is every great male coach. I won't speak on the female coaches, but male coaches who have families and who are married. You're only
it's a family commitment.
It is, and my wife she works so hard, and I'm so appreciative. And I know when the season's done, the list of things to do and will be long and tedious.
Deservedly so.
Yes.
But I think I'm so glad to hear that is what your intent is moving forward. That your focus is at that. I wish you all success. Certainly on the court for the remainder of the season, but more importantly than that, Ben, just in life in general, I appreciate all that you do for your team, for your school, for the community. You are so deserving to be our community champion today, and thanks so much for coming in to the studio and spending this time with us.
Thanks for having me, Paul. It's an honor, and I'm so glad to see you here with this show. It's awesome, and Josh, you got to keep Josh in line clearly because
we're gonna have to set some restrictions.
Yeah,
I think Friday night curfews are going to have to be put into place. Oh, okay. It's what it was like getting into bed and where that bed might have been. But we digress. So, Ben, thank you again for being here. Best of luck for the rest of the season. You're listening to Hoop City on Sports 1440. When we come back, we have a special guest, the Minister of Tourism and Sport, Andrew Boychenko, will join us. Awesome. Come back to Hoop City. Welcome back to Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440, your sports leader in Edmonton. Now, we talk about it takes a village to raise a child. We've heard that many times, but it takes a lot of different parties, a lot of different people to provide opportunities for people of all ages across our cities and our province to make sporting participation possible. And one of the key partners and leaders in this area is the province of Alberta, the government of the province of Alberta. And I'm pleased to welcome today, and honored, in fact, to have our Minister of Tourism and Sport from the province of Alberta, the Honorable Andrew Boychenko, joining us here on Hoop City. Minister Boychenko, welcome and thank you.
Well, thank you, Paul. It's absolutely a pleasure to meet with you, and both online here, and also being invited to the games 3x3 was playing in Alberta here. And I'm very honored to have you as a partner with our government, and I totally admire the work you're doing in the sports. I'm very passionate about sports in general, and basketball and 3x3 was absolutely amazing. Something new that I've first time been when you invited me. So I'm actually looking forward to join further games and help participate and be a partners with you as well.
Well, thank you for that very much, Minister Boychenko. And Minister, you joined us at our Hoop City Festival this past summer at West Edmonton Mall. It was over the August-long weekend. It was a fantastic show, I would say, in bringing athletes from all over the world, including, of course, our great Canadian women's team, who won the event, one of the top teams in the world, and will be one of the threats for an Olympic medal in Los Angeles in 2028. None of this could have happened, however, without the support of the provincial government. Minister, in your opening comments, you talked about your being passionate about sport. Where does that passion come from? What's your background, not just in sport, but what's your background that has led you to this portfolio for the provincial government?
Well, I want to start with this, that I was never a professional sports player, but I grew up in Europe playing soccer on a daily basis. So when I came to Canada here, started my own family, all three of my kids were participating in sports, and I was involved with coaching, helping them, and training them as well, both soccer and hockey for my middle son, and a little bit of rugby for my daughter. So the
multi-sport family.
Well, yeah, and just to let you know as well, I play basketball, but I'm very passionate also in volleyball as well. In fact, I think this is the longest I've ever played sport in one period. Like I can play hours and hours and hours of volleyball. So I'm very passionate about the sport. But what's important to mention, my vision for their province in general, that the more access kids have to sports, to play sports, to get involved in sports, to participate in sports, and to belong, the less trouble kids we're going to have on the street. And I'm driven by that passion, and I share that with Premier, and hence the conversation started for us, for me particularly, to run the tourism and sports because of that passion. I believe that instead of building Taj Mahal, one big complex in one spot in the province, we should build 10, 20 smaller opportunities across the province so that kids, youth, and people generally can participate in sports, to prevent our healthcare system, because we know that the more people play sports, the healthier they stay. The more kids and youth participate in sports, the less we have troubled and bad kids on the street. So my passion is to get as many youth, kids, and people in sports as much as we can in our province.
No, let's talk a little bit about that, Minister Boychenko. I love the vision. I love the idea of what I guess the way I would paraphrase it is not necessarily flashy facilities, but spending the money on the participation space as opposed to the architecture and the amenities, because anybody that's traveled to various countries around the world, many people who have done that have seen that that is how a lot of countries that have very, very robust participation numbers have gone about building their community sports facilities. Talk about what the province is doing to make this happen in communities around our great province in Western Canada.
Well, we have various different programs that we invest and participate. We have Every Kid Can Play, active community initiatives, and government of Alberta spends millions of dollars. We invested $2.5 million in the major sport events grant program to support national and international competition and tournaments right here in the province. And I guess you were guys part of that as well. $5 million to help bring the upcoming 2027 IIHF into the province. $4.5 million to support the CFR in Edmonton. Also, the 2027 IHF are expected to generate $90 million economic activity in the province here as well. So we look at this as we investing into the province, we're investing into our youth and our sports in the province, but also, we also look and see it also pays back to the province in many folds, right? Financially, but as well as health-wise, keeping our youth healthy. To the ICI, we invested $7 million just last year to support 14 projects across the province. So our grant programs are vastly invested in the province to support our communities. One other, I would like to also mention that $8 million this year was spent to help to get every kid in the game. That's Every Kid Can Play program. And we supported through that over 130 sports and communities organizations across the province. So province is very supportive, but also participating financially quite a bit to allow kids to get in the game and also building facilities to sustain those games in the province here.
I'm speaking with the Minister of Tourism and Sport, Andrew Butchenko, here on Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440. Minister, you've laid it out, I think, very, very well. Not only that, all of the good that sport does for our communities in terms of physical health, mental health, bringing communities together, providing facilities. I know from personal experience that I've been in the basketball world for a long, long time, many decades in the province of Alberta, and I've always been grateful for the support that the province has provided to the various endeavors I've had the good fortune of being a part of. What's your vision for Alberta as a sports and tourism community moving forward? Is it sounds like it's a healthy combination of participation opportunities for our kids, for all of our citizens across the province, but there is an important economic portion to this as well, and that is the sports tourism world that Alberta is trying and is very successful at participating in.
Well, Paul, I want to start with this. I want to mention how important it is to work with people like you who dedicate their time and lifelong, commitment to the sports to help us help the province. Provincial government and so on going out there and looking for facilities and teams to support. It's not an easy task, but partnering with coaches and with people driven by sport, who's committed like you throughout your life cycle, through your life long commitment to the sports is what's helping us to participate meaningfully in the province. Because with people who organize these games, people who actually organize the community and teams and bringing together even folks from other countries. When I went to your event, I was surprised to see international participation in the Hoop City 3x3 that I visited. That you're investing your time, effort to organize it, and we are partnering with people like you to help distribute the funding and support of our province. So our vision is to grow that. Our vision is to make sure that more Albertans can participate and be part of the sports activities, and we're looking to grow that participation numbers.
Well, Minister Boychenko, I think the way that you've laid it out is that healthy, robust partnership approach of collaboration, working arm in arm, hand in hand, trying to make the province a better place for people to live and to bring opportunities to all people. We know the stats, we know the numbers of new Canadians, new Albertans that are coming into our province. And it's imperative to all of us that we provide these outlets for these new citizens, for these new residents, to be able to participate, to become part of our community. And the province of Alberta, all of your efforts, the money that's being spent, and the good intentions and the goodwill that's being built with people like myself. And when you say I've been involved a long time, that's because I'm really old. But that's okay. It's a great pleasure and a great privilege to be collaborating with you. So, final thoughts, Minister, because I know your time is precious. But if you had a message for Albertans about what the province of Alberta wants for them, what would that message be?
Well, my message and my goal is to increase access to sport for Albertans across the whole province, and also increase access for athletes who want to come to Alberta to compete, participate in sports, and also motivate people to get into sports, to start their active lifestyle. And we have a lot of talent in the province, and you know that a lot of Albertans competing internationally in Olympics, and they bring medals home. So my message will be this: we want to increase the access, but we also want people to step up, participate, and get involved. And I want to say thank you to you, Paul, for your passion and your commitment to what you do for our province. This is going to leave a meaningful impact on many Albertans, and I'm honored and pleased to be partners with you, and looking forward to work in partnership.
Thank you for those kind words, Minister Boychenko. We look forward to your being out at our 3x3 event again this year. We appreciate all the support and really appreciate taking the time today. I know you're extremely busy, so it means a lot, not just to myself, but certainly to our listeners and our viewers, to see the kind of enthusiasm and passion that you bring and the commitment that you represent from the province of Alberta for the betterment of sport in Alberta. Thank you, Minister Andrew Boychenko.
Thank you, Paul, for having me. I'm looking forward for more interviews and for more games to be to witness and be part of. And I have a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to do more work with you, Paul. Thank you.
We're going to get you out on the 3x3 court yet, Minister, that's for sure. So, Minister Andrew Boychenko, Minister of Tourism and Sport for the province of Alberta, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. What a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back. Hoop City, Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, joining you from your sports leader. Sports 1440 in frozen Edmonton, but I don't think we're alone in being frozen. Kevin Lehman, you're joining us from Iowa City, Iowa. It's a little bit cold down there, my friend.
Well, probably not as cold as you've got it. It was a -7 yesterday, and we have a balmy +1 today. But no snow, and that's a good sign.
Out in the shorts and T-shirt weather. That's for Edmonton. That's for sure. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I know you've been on the road a lot lately. Talk about the schedule that you've been keeping.
Well, I do a lot of Valley games and sprinkle in some Big 12 opponents in there. But if I go way back to November when this started, I go to Virgin Islands every year, Paul. And
gee, that's
men's
tough.
tournament.
I'm sorry, man.
Well,
What you give
it's 4 games a day.
is amazing.
What's that?
What you give to the game is amazing. Sacrificing yourself to go to the Virgin Islands.
I've learned to go in. I take my girlfriend with me, go in 5 days early to visit a few of the other surrounding islands. But once that starts, Paul, that's 4 games a day. So you're on air from basically noon, and you get back to your hotel about 12. You do it again the next day. So we do 24 games in 9 days. So that kind of kicks off my basketball season. And then I do a lot of the Northern Iowa games. I'm their main broadcaster for that. And unless a Valley game comes up or a Big 12. So I just got back this last week. I had Northern Iowa and Illinois State. And then because of the weather, Paul, ESPN said, hey, can you get down to St. Louis and cover the Kentucky State game versus SIU, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, because that analyst had problems with some travel problems. So I bopped down there, and I just got home late last night. And perfect timing. It's my girlfriend's birthday this weekend. I said, they gave me the weekend off because it's your birthday.
Oh, you sweet talker, you.
Yeah, she believed it too, Paul.
Oh my gosh. You are good. You are smooth. So let's jump into, you're in the Missouri Valley Conference, mid-major conference. You are you have a year or two now under your belt, Kevin, with NIL money becoming so much of a factor in how college basketball is really starting to take shape and form. And we're going to dive into the power conferences in a little bit, but I'm very, very curious about your perspective, Kevin, on how this landscape with the transfer portal allowing almost complete freedom of movement of players from school to schools, the amount of money that's changing hands, what mid-majors are able to come up with in terms of financial resources, and how this flow of both personnel and capital is affecting the mid-major world of NCAA Division I basketball.
Well, Paul, that is a great question because we always focus on those power conferences, especially during football and what their salaries are and their payrolls. But so if you look at mid-major basketball, we have what we call a talent drain. So usually if you make a first or second team All-League Valley, you're going to get poached. For example, we've got 2 players from Southern Illinois. One of them's playing for BYU. The other one took $450,000 is the number you hear, and we hear all kinds of numbers. Go to Texas A&M. So that, and then, but it's also, we're seeing the mid-majors dive into Division II, NAIA schools. So they're going to the levels below them and trying to find their best players, and they move up a level. Plus, there's some guys that we don't talk about also that are at the Power Fives, the major conferences, that are falling back down into the mid-majors because they were, a lot of times they're 4-star recruits. You know the type. They're really athletic. They don't know quite how to play the game, and they'll filter back down the mid majors. But as far as NIL, Paul, it's interesting because just like other leagues, you have the haves and the have-nots. There are those who are going to invest heavily in their basketball programs. Our best example is Murray State, new coach, 15 new players, top of the league right now, and amazingly, they have the highest NIL money. They're talking around $2 million. Most of the other mid-majors in this league, the Valley League, has around 750,000 to $1 million. So they're dealing with twice the payroll, and they're telling people up front, we're going to 4 million as soon as we can.
And that's such an interesting development, because now you have literally business organizations as part of the athletic programs, running their programs, running it like a business, salary. You're looking at your salaries, what you can pay people, trying to evaluate what they're worth within the pot that you've got to work with. The complexity and the dynamics of coaching, recruiting, retention, all of the factors that have always been a part of any college athletics program, that's all turned on its head right now. Because now, like you said, because there's no cap, you've got a Murray State in a conference where you're dealing with 750,000 to $1 million. They double that. They're looking to double that again. That puts pressure on everybody else. And I guess one question I have that I get asked a lot is, where does the money come from? Does it come from the school, the athletic budget, or does it come from sponsors and benefactors? Most likely, I'm guessing it's a combination of both. But where do the funds actually come from, Kevin?
Well, the NIL money, which stands for name, image, and likeness, is coming from private donors. So they may have a deal with that particular student athlete that he's going to do commercials, say for a car dealership, and then be paid accordingly. The issue is, what's the value of that? And when it goes through the court system, no one can really say what the value of that person is, being a spokesperson for that particular business. But because of the House settlement that came through July 1st, and what we call revenue sharing, and at the highest level, the football conferences are allowed to give, I think, 20.5 million of what they call revenue share. So a lot of that, I think, is coming from TV revenue, those types of things, and the school's going to disperse those. So the NIL, because of that, Paul, most of the institutions have taken their NIL, which used to be separate from the university, the name, image, likeness pool, now it's under the umbrella of the university. But here's what's interesting, Paul. So Murray State has a general manager. He decides who's getting the money. The head coach doesn't have to deal with it, because that can become a little bit of a dicey situation if I'm the head coach deciding how much you get, because it's not supposed to be pay for play or pay for performance. So that's the gray areas that we're dealing with. And Paul, you'll love this part. The general managers are treating this like they're an NFL or a major league team. They know what each position commands. For example, in football, in the high levels, your quarterback, $4 million at a minimum. They're doing the same thing with basketball. What's a point guard worth in this market? What's the center work in this market? And we're going to pay accordingly. That's the piece I found really interesting, that we've come into that type of business model in college basketball.
Well, it is interesting from the standpoint, like you said, you have a general manager now. It's all business. How that correlates to the coach. Do you think there is in any of the influence taking place right now? Listen, we've got this kid here. We're paying him, $700,000. He's not playing that well, or he's not playing enough. Do you think there are any pressures being applied to the coaches to pay, or play rather, the players that are being paid the most? Or do you think it's a relatively successful at being arm's length and just business is business, and coaching on the court, that's completely up to the coach himself or herself?
Well, I think if you have the resource to hire a general manager, it takes that off the head coach's plate and makes that much easier. Okay. Here's the problem you run into, Paul. We use the term donor fatigue, because if I'm the donor that's contributing to that NIL and he's not playing, or the quarterback, because they're more high profile, and you got to go to that booster again and say, hey, we're recruiting this young man. Can you do this type of deal for him? That's, I think, where the issues come in, because, you asked me last year and that you didn't play that guy. So now you want me to come back and do it again. And also, those donors used to be the business people you went to, or boosted alumni that helped build your facilities. So now they're getting double dipped. We need money for facility upgrades. We need money for player retention.
Now, when you're talking about, and I'm talking to Kevin Lehman, he is a voice of the Missouri Valley Conference and the Big 12, longtime broadcaster in college basketball, joining us here on Hoop City with Paul Sir. Kevin, donor fatigue. This is a relatively new arena. You've got universities with installing general managers, like you mentioned at Murray State, but you hear like of business departments surrounding athletics departments now cropping up everywhere. That's becoming the norm, not the exception anymore. So you have this rapidly evolving landscape with lots and lots of zeros at the end of checks being written to athletes coming and going with abandon, and the complexity and the moving parts, coupled with donor fatigue and the constant asks by the business managers of these athletics departments. How's that going to look in 5 years, in your opinion? How's this going to evolve? I guess when I think about it, here's my question. Is this sustainable in its present form, or do some controls have to be put into place by the now bizarro world NCAA organization?
I'm going to give you two parts.
That's about
two
20
answers to that.
So,
Number one, if you have a Mark Cuban, like Indiana football, it's probably sustainable. But if you don't, it's not sustainable.
right.
But Mark Cuban, how deep are his pockets? And there's some schools that have that type of booster that can do that. And that's you talk about Indiana. I don't know what their payroll is. I'm sure it's not near what Ohio State's football payroll was. But we saw. I'm sure you watched the national championship game. Who's down the sidelines afterwards? It's Mark Cuban is right in the midst of it.
Yes.
And then here's my other question. Now, they've had that great success in basketball at Indiana. Does that take away from the funds going into basketball for Darren DeVries, my former player, to fund his players? How big is that pot? So and at the mid majors, obviously that pot's a little bit smaller. Now, what's helping Murray State, back to their picture, they have a young man named John Morant who's playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, and the head coach's brother is his agent. So I'm sure that helps. I don't know the exact intricacies of how that economic system is set up, and I'm sure it has not hurt the ability of Murray State to capitalize on this NIL. But as far as you're saying, no, not sustainable. And you saw this situation. Have you followed the Duke quarterback that's trying to leave? And evidently his NIL agreement was 2 years. So there's a lawsuit right there.
Well, and I believe a similar situation, not identical, but similar, is happening in Washington, at the University of Washington as well. And you're right. Now players are coming. They're signing 2-year deals. They want to get out. They can make more money elsewhere, or they, for whatever reason, the typical reasons sometimes still apply, where players want to move from one university to the other because they don't like the coach. They don't feel like the program's up to what their expectations are. But now you've got this model, which is just, and when I was referring before, Kevin, to the bizarro world NCAA, think back 20 years. I mean, think back, if you bought your team, and this is one of many true stories about the NCAA. I knew Rick Majerus, and he was close friends with one of a lot of my friends, but he got in trouble with the NCAA for buying pizza for his players after a practice once, and they did an NCAA investigation. I mean, you remember the draconian approach that the NCAA used to take on virtually everything in terms of rules enforcement, to the point where it was just silly. And now it's like you throw in the doors wide open and said, have at it. What the hell, guys? We don't care. Do whatever you want. Go wherever you want. Pay them whatever you want. And it's like the shackles were taken off, and the inmates were allowed to run the asylum. And it's just such a bizarre switch in a relatively short period of time.
Well, that Majerus story makes me think of there's a restriction by the NCAA that you could provide a bagel, but no cream cheese.
I believe it. Like, they were nuts. They were nuts. The amount of guy. I just had this image of this hall in Indianapolis being filled with all these guys with horn rim glasses and pocket protectors. Just looking for little things that they could go after. And now it's like, J.R. Ewing. It's like, what the hell, guys? Just pay him whatever.
Well, the NCAA can't win a court case. That's the problem. And that's opened up this movement for players. Now, I think what's going to solve it, I don't know if it will ever happen, is collective bargaining, which would mean the players have to unionize. And as I was listening to a podcast the other day about former NFL players. So we have a hard time getting those football teams to unionize. How are you going to do it with 361 Division I college basketball teams, not to mention Division II, Division III, how far down the ladder it goes, to get those people to agree on a collective bargaining issue? And that would make your student athletes employees, I believe, of the university, which now makes that income more taxable. And there's a lot of other answers to it. But it's the issue. Why would you sign a 2-year contract if you're a student athlete on an NIL deal? Because if you have a great year, your market price just went up. But I guess it's similar to a basketball coach. But usually, if he has a great year, they're going to extend his contract, add to it, etc. So I'm sure those things are happening now with players also. But I think this Duke case is going to be really interesting, because does he have to compensate Duke if he breaks that contract? I think is what we're going to find out in the court system.
Absolutely. So all of a sudden, this is professional sports, and it's going to be treated as such in the courts. As you said, the NCAA has been at such a disadvantage in its ability to enact laws and then have them stand up in court. And when we come back, and we have to take a real quick break here, Kevin, but when we come back, I want to talk about the reality that the requests for longer periods of eligibility that seems to be creeping in now, of like, why just 4 years? Why just 5 years? What does a red shirt mean anymore? You don't have, you play JUCO, you can, that doesn't count against your eligibility. Like, why can't you play 8 years at a school? Like, those kind of questions are going to be interesting. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with Kevin Lehman, Missouri Valley, a longtime broadcaster, joining us here on sports, on Hoop City, on your Sports 1440 Edmonton leader. And we'll be right back after these messages.
Take your skating to the next level with Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park. We make your skates feel like an extension of you. From kids lacing up for the first time to beer league warriors to elite level pros, we fit every skater with precision and care. Only a Duster goes straight from off the shelf to on the ice. Our expert alignment process ensures the perfect fit, eliminating pressure points and maximizing your blade's performance. Aligned Custom Skate gives you the edge where it matters most, on the ice. Stop being the team grocery stick and visit AlignedSkate.com today. Whether it's a full custom fitting or professional sharpening, we've got you covered. So don't just skate, skate aligned. Book your appointment today and feel the difference. Discover why we're trusted by hockey pros and podium champions. Help us cure the bender in your life. Once again, visit AlignedSkate.com to get started. Custom skate performance with precision meets passion.
Escape the cold and catch the hottest sports action at Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge. Not a bad seat in the house. All the games and tons of big screens. Plus, Selly's menu has something for everyone, along with game night food and drink features. And this January, Oilers watch parties continue. So bring your friends and cheer loud and proud. Selly's Sports Bar and Lounge at all 3 Century Casino locations: Edmonton, St. Albert, and Century Mile.
Every day is game day at Century Casino. Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. A top safety pick for unmatched peace of mind. Visit Subaru.ca.
Life is delicious when you shop El Safadi Brothers Mediterranean Supermarket. Hurry in for this week's specials.
Tomatoes just 99 cents a pound. Large oranges only $1.49 a pound.
Willie and Anwar, thank you for supporting El Safadi Brothers Mediterranean Supermarket. 2 locations to serve you.
A little ice and snow can't stop your Canadian spirit, especially when you start at the Lawnmower Hospital. Come find a wide selection of top-performing snowblowers, sweepers, and backpack blowers from the best names in snow removal, like Toro, Ariens, Echo, and BCS. Don't forget to pick up Pet Safe, Plant Safe Ice Melt, along with Aspen Fuel to keep you clearing. The Lawnmower Hospital. Visit lawnmowerhospital.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
The great Wilson Pickett, Funky Broadway. Kevin, today we're doing songs from 1967 for no real reason.
Classic. That would make me 12 years old.
Well, you're a youngster. You're just a youngster, just a pup. Kevin, the going back to my very, very inarticulate departure there, going into break. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think that the request for extending eligibility, is there a pathway forward where that may have some real challenges for the NCAA to be able to justify why players can only play for a certain amount of time?
Paul, that is a great question, because when this thing started years ago, we had COVID, we had the lawsuits of players trying to get extra years of eligibility because the coach left, or the COVID or an injury. And I always said this, think back last year, Kansas's center, Hunter Dickinson. Okay, not an NBA player. He can make much more money playing at Kansas than he would ever professionally. If I was him, I would sue the NCAA and say, you're restricting my earnings. Why you only allow me 4 years of eligibility? Let me play till I'm 30 for Kansas, because he's going to have more income potential there. I don't know where Hunter Dickinson is today. He's probably overseas playing, and who knows, what conditions or what he's getting paid. But that was always in the back of my mind. Someone's going to bring that case up and sue the NCAA. But you've seen it, what you're talking about. You get eligibility back for being in junior college, in NAIA school. Is it Pavio, the quarterback from Vanderbilt, opened that can of worms?
That's right.
And there was a lot of talk last summer, Paul, and I heard a lot of it from coaches that the NCAA was going to do 5 years of eligibility, period. You're hurt, that's part of your 5 years. But you could play 5 if you stayed healthy. There's no medical redshirt, you just had a 5-year window. That kind of went away quietly in the fall, and I'm not sure why, because I know the NCAA was really thinking heavily about doing that.
Well, it's interesting because there again, I think they'd have an awfully tough time in court if you're dealing with a catastrophic injury that does bench a player for a full year and then say you can't play the fifth, but somebody, just because of the good fortune of staying healthy, is able to play the full 5 years. So I can see the NCAA once again having a real tough time making a coherent argument that would stand up in court. And that really, Kevin, has been the lifeblood of the NCAA historically, is a lot of their policies weren't fair. They were weird.
Exactly.
They were very much at the expense of the athlete in terms of what they restricted both the athlete and the coaches and what they could do.
I tell you, Paul, and this is years ago, when I left high school and went to play college, it kind of hit me like, this is no longer I'm playing for my school and high school and my classmates, but this is a business. And it kind of hit me as a college player that I'm involved in the business now, and this coach is making business decisions. And I always thought it's strange that, okay, I don't have any compensation for this. I'm putting in, back now it's limited to 20 hours a week, but if you're serious about your game, you're putting in 30 to 40 hours a week. And so you're returning your payment, but you got room, board, tuition, books, and fees. That was the old scholarship. But here's where the NCAA messed up. And I know this is water way over the bridge, but the Ed O'Banion case, where Ed O'Banion's sitting with his nephew, and the nephew's playing that video game, and Ed says, that's me on that screen. It looks like me. It's got my numbers, got UCLA on the front. And he sued. If the NCAA would just said, okay, we're going to give players, 10% of the profits or whatever, then they might have avoided all this. But that never happened. And now we're at the situation we're at now. It's just court case after court case, and the NCAA is not doing well in those court cases.
It's really interesting. One of the interesting facets to this are some of the voices, the old guard voices that are coming out and are the clarions of not doom and gloom, but the clarions of what's wrong with this present system. Tom Izzo, from Michigan State. But one that just really cracks me up is John Calipari. I mean, you look at John Calipari and his successful yet checkered career with championships. And I heard one coach describe it really well, is we used to have to go in the back door to give the players the money. Now we can come through the front door and just give it to them. That's
and
really,
the bags are probably even bigger now.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now you look at a place like BYU, both in football and basketball, deep pockets. They have transformed both programs into top 10 or, borderline top 10 in the football world, but definitely are right around top 10. They're to me a classic example of the haves where it's going to lead down the road to the haves and have-nots because they have such a depth of big, successful corporate graduates that they're going to be able to tap into for many, many years, where a lot of other schools that are smaller alumni bases, not as affluent alumni bases, they're going to have a real tough time competing with that over the long term. Wouldn't you agree?
That's a great example, Paul, because when I was spending that time in the Virgin Islands in 85-degree temperature, a little bit on the beach, BYU women were there, and I stay and do the women's tournament now. And the BYU coach I can't think of his name right now, but he was an All-American for BYU back probably about 12 or 15 years ago. You would recognize the name if you heard it. And I asked him, I said, Coach, what has moving to the Big 12 done for you? Because, we've seen on the men's side, DeBanchi getting paid all that money. He goes, it has opened up a whole new world for us. Because basically his statement was, we just woke up a sleeping giant. Because our alumni base is so excited about being in the Big 12. They were in the West Coast. That's why this thing has exploded, because that alumni base, as you know, for BYU is coast to coast and actually worldwide. So that opened up just the exposure now in the Big 12 conference has opened up all sorts of revenue for that school and those sports that you just spoke about.
The best player on the BYU women's team is from the province of Alberta.
Yes.
Delaney Gibb. Yeah, Delaney Gibb.
Yep.
And I have two nephews that are playing on the football team, or a nephew with two sons that are playing on the football team. And we hear about their program and all that they're putting into it. But I agree with you about the sleeping giant. The LDS Church has more money than the Catholic Church.
Yes.
It is the wealthiest church in the world. And the success that their alumni have in business is staggering. And I guess that's where this is all going to lead to. We're going to end up with the pyramid, which we kind of always have had.
Right.
We're talking about the blue bloods. In that respect, it hasn't changed. And here's something, Kevin, that I find most interesting, at least for the time being. This isn't hurting ratings. People watching sport. I mean, and I wanted to ask you this. I watch the NCAA right now, and when you look at the top 25, 30, 35 teams, these are some of the most complete teams, top to bottom, that I've seen in a long, long time. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that they have been able to move pieces around and bring new talented pieces into their program to create really, really good basketball teams.
Well, I got a good story on that one, Paul. But here's the second part of what you're saying. Also, players are staying longer rather than going. If you're a second round pick, I'm going to stay and make more money at Michigan or wherever I'm at than being a second round non-guaranteed pick at Iowa.
That's
Dennis
right.
Sturts was going to be probably a early second rounder. He came to Iowa. Now they're projecting mid first round. So to your point, there's more talent at the higher levels now. Plus, they can acquire the best players from the mid majors that we previously spoke about. And I had a conversation with my boss, my coordinating producer at ESPN years ago, and his take was how great college basketball is becoming. Because if I'm at Kansas and I need a point guard, I go out and get one. Mike was saying, my thing to him was, it's killing the mid majors. He didn't care because he's worried about viewership at the top.
Right.
He said, we have a better product at the top than we've ever had because of what you just mentioned, Paul. And I kind of like, okay, I just sound like a dummy because I'm pleading the case for mid majors where there aren't as many eyeballs. He's looking at the big picture because when we have our weekly calls, we're going to show you, hey, this one drew 2.5 million or whatever. because that's the eyeball and the lens he's using. So to your point, yes, at the top, unbelievable talent. But you're seeing the haves and the have-nots. And also what's up is down, down is up. Indiana is now a football school and Nebraska is a basketball school.
It's unbelievable to watch those two programs in the way that you just described them. I mean, the Indiana story in football is a story for the ages in sports in general, really and truly. What Freddie Hoiberg is doing at Nebraska is absolutely incredible. In fact, I'll ask you about two programs, Nebraska, number one, and Miami of Ohio, number two, which kind of flies in the face of the mid-major theory, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I see they got ranked fine this year. My play-by-play, who I did the game with Thursday, has the Miami game, I think, Tuesday. And I'm not sure they're playing, but he was really excited because there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that one because they're one of the three undefeateds left. But when you look at the net and those types of things, and I was just looking before we went on air about where Lenardi has these people seated. I didn't quite find where Miami is, but I still think because their inability to get quad 1 and quad 2 wins, they'll probably be seated somewhere. I'm just guessing now, 12, 13, 14, if they continue this run. But
right.
Here's what you're going to see, though, Paul. It's interesting because the blue bloods that we've talked about, Kansas, UCLA, or Indiana. Now we're seeing BYU's. Iowa State is getting Houston, not traditional blue bloods. Last year we had Florida win. Some say that may be a blue blood, but whatever. The point is, those BYU's of the world, it's a whole new era for them. And some of these other blue bloods, I heard this comment from Bill Self just about 2 weeks ago. He said, "Hey, here's what's different now. I used to have NBA guys sitting on my bench. I don't have them there now because they're playing for somebody else because they're getting more money than I could have gave them as a bench player. So therefore, that talent pool has been spread out amongst those upper echelon schools."
That really is interesting. A school that is having a great year, a great start so far, that I'm curious about in 5 years is Gonzaga. Small market, doesn't have what you would probably say would the kind of pool of alumni revenue that a BYU would have, just to use BYU as the comparative here. But so far, Mark Few and his staff have done extremely well. And then his longtime assistant, Tommy Lloyd, top team in the country right now at the University of Arizona. Gonzaga has had such an interesting impact on the sport of college basketball because of where it's located. Really makes no sense. Just built something out of nothing and have been able to sustain it, and not only sustain it, but spread the wealth of their success now to a very high-profile school at the University of Arizona.
Well, yeah, that the recruiting of Tommy Lloyd is, and maybe Gonzaga is going to suffer a little bit because his recruiting contacts are now the benefit of Arizona. And I've got friends that were mid-major coaches, and everyone wanted to be, every mid-major AD said, "We're going to be the Gonzaga of the Midwest." And my good friend was, I think he was at Ball State, and he went and got all of Gonzaga's financials for recruiting budgets, et cetera, et cetera. This is prior to NIL. And he went in his AD's office and he threw it in the desk. He goes, "I'm all in." And AD says, "What?" He goes, "I'm all in. You want to be Gonzaga? Here's what they're using. Here's what they're spending. So we'll start spending it, and we'll be like Gonzaga." Of course, the AD wasn't quite prepared for that one because they don't understand that the resources Gonzaga has to get that program where it's at. But I'm kind of with you, Paul. Let's see how going forward, can Gonzaga stay at that level? Because 2 years ago, we had Indiana State in the Valley, made a great run, just missed the tournament because of one loss they had at home. And all those players left along with the coach. And now Indiana's still in the second division again. And Drake made a great run. Drake's in the second division of the Valley right now. So I think the mid-major, Miami, Ohio might be a good case too. Where are they going to be in the next 2, 3, or 4 years? Is this a one-time event? Because I guarantee their Miami players, they got eligibility left, they won't be there next year. A majority will be gone.
And you see in all sports, whether it's football or basketball, the mass exodus from certain schools. I believe Iowa State had something like 20 of their football players leave when their coach took off. And now, I mean, they've got to literally rebuild a pretty darn strong program from scratch again. That's going to be tough when you have these mass movements and mass exoduses, if that's the right word, happening within schools. And it goes back, I think, and this is a question I really want your opinion on, Kevin. What is the trickle-down effect on kids, high school, junior high? Like, what are they thinking and seeing? Because, for example, Steph Curry in the mid-teens, when his great three-point shooting prowess really came to the forefront, you walk into any gym anywhere, and you've got kids, grade 5, grade 6, hucking up threes from God knows where, clanging off backboards, no idea. But that's what they saw. That's what they wanted to be. Kids want to be what their heroes, they want to do what their heroes are doing. Now, what is this impact where it's all this money, all this movement, it trickling down into prep schools? Does it trickle down? I'm sure it does into high schools now. The net effect of this is going to be really interesting, and I have no idea what that net effect will be.
Well, this is the argument you're hearing from Tom Izzo and some others when we're hearing of G League players, Ignite players that are professionals getting eligibility left. We have the case right now where the player going to Alabama has got to stay from the judge who is an Alabama booster. The judge is.
Yeah.
But I think what Tom Izzo made a great point about is, what about our high school players? Because we're limiting their opportunities because we're giving scholarships now to professionals, whether from overseas in Europe or now. And that's why the course and the NCAA did not fight these G League players, because they've had a whole influx of foreign players that are professionals coming to the U.S. So how can we limit someone that did not play in an NBA game but played in the G League or the Ignite on the Ignite team?
Well, that goes back to the old argument about when the United States was not allowed to have NBA players in the Olympics, even though European pros were, playing all the time. They were paid professionals as well. But you're right. They didn't fight it because they can't. So my question to you is, what effect is this having on the junior college world? Do you have any kind of a sense of that? Because it no longer counts against your eligibility. Isn't that an avenue that young players are going to want to start taking, is just going right to JUCO and try to start making their way up the food chain by keeping their eligibility and proving that they can play?
I think I'm seeing more of those high school kids go to prep schools than junior colleges. Now, I am seeing more junior college players in mid-majors, but I think you have to go back to our eras, maybe 20, 30 years ago, where you saw JUCO players go to high majors. That's not happening anymore. The prep schools have become so predominant, and I think that's what's going to happen now. If you're a really talented high school senior, and there's limited scholarships because who's taking them? Foreign players are taking them. Now we got professional players in the U.S. taking them. So those players are getting funneled into prep schools more than we've seen in the past. And that's the biggest argument. If we're opening up this world of college basketball for professional players, we're limiting the access for our high school seniors coming out to get scholarship opportunities and to get into programs.
And the retort most likely will be, well, if you're like Boozer at Duke, you're fine. Yeah. So for the elite players, it won't be a problem. They're good enough to play at any time at any level. But it's the kid, like, I'd hate to be a 6'3" guard right now who's pretty good, who normally would have gotten a D2 or a low to mid-major D1 offer. Those kids are going to be overlooked now, and they're going to have to find their way into the ecosystem a little bit differently, because everybody's going to be looking for ways to move around and to get experienced players onto their roster.
But Paul, I've seen this scenario is happening too. So that player in Michigan is going to go D2. If he's good, he's going to move up to a mid-major. Now, Northern Iowa had their best recruiting class on paper, entered the class of 25, 26. And they're telling these players, because here's another fallout that we're seeing because of the high majors going to the portal rather than take a high school player because they're looking for the proven commodity. The mid-majors are getting more talented freshmen because there are more kids available to them now because
that's a fair point.
Yep, the Big 12, Big 10, Big East, ACC didn't take them. But Northern Iowa, in their case, say, hey, come. This is what the good majors are telling people, and Akron's the same thing. I had them in the Virgin Islands. Come here for 2 years,
Yep,
and you can make some real money.
Yep.
So, in essence, and I heard this from the Oregon State coach, Wayne Tinkle. He goes, "I'd become a junior college. They're coming here for 2 years, increase your value." And Wayne Tinkle's team a year ago, they were in the Virgin Islands too. So I had a long discussion with him. His top 5 players went in the portal before they went to that Crown tournament in Vegas at the end of the season. Combined, they were making $450,000 from Oregon State. He told me today they have all transferred out. They're making a combined $4.5 million.
so 10 times what they were able to pay out at Oregon State. And Wayne Tinkle, he was a heck of a player.
Great guy. Great guy. And he looked at me, he said, "We become a junior college." And I'm thinking, this is Oregon State. This is Ralph Miller. This is the glove. I mean, and he said junior college. I was just shocked. But he was right. I mean, he can't keep his good players.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, Kevin. Thank you for being so generous with it, with your time this weekend. It's been so much fun talking to you, and I hope we can do this again real soon, particularly as we get ready for the March Madness that's just around the corner. But thanks so much for spending time.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, Paul. And you stay warm where you're at, and I've got my wood burner stove going down here.
Get your wood burning stove, go take your girlfriend out for a nice dinner. And thanks again for being with us today, Kevin.
Okay, always my pleasure.
Kevin Lehman, longtime voice for the Missouri Valley Conference and Big 12 in NCAA Division I. Great discussion on the direction of the NCAA. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up in closing time here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick on your Sports Leader, Sports 1440.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Engineered for Canadian winters. Visit Subaru.ca.
When you hit the ice, it's all about you and your skates. The stride, the feel, the glide, the power, the performance. Why trust your skates to a grinding machine, or even worse, a tournament parent in a parking lot? At Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park, the art of skate fitting and sharpening is customized to the athlete.
Aligned Custom Skate Performance, where precision meets passion. Oh.
Visit AlignedSkate.com to learn more.
Unconditional love, boundless loyalty, and an unbreakable bond. That's what adopting a shelter pet brings into your life. Choosing adoption over other options isn't just about companionship. It's about giving a deserving soul a second chance at a fulfilling life. And with every joyful bark, purr, and wagging tail, you'll feel the warmth of that connection. Embrace the experience and take pride in making a profound difference. Contact your local animal shelter today and help create a brighter future for an animal in need.
Heart 2 Care Home Care is an approved Veterans Independence Program provider. Not sure if you qualify for personal care, home care, or nursing assistance? Call 780-717-9839 and our team will help you access your benefits. Visit heart2care.ca today.
A huge thank you for making Sports 1440 the most listened to sports radio station in Edmonton. From Gregor to Carius to Low Tide, we've got in-depth analysis on all your favorite sports. We are Sports 1440. This is the Saturday Sports Setup. Let's find out what's happening this weekend exclusively on Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
This isn't 1967, but never get tired of Leonard Cohen in closing time. This is closing time here on Hoop City with Paul Sir and Josh Fenwick. Let's start with our poll. How did people vote in terms of what they think the Raptors' next steps should be, Josh?
Yeah. So still a little bit of time to vote over there, guys. But the question today obviously was, which of the following strategies should the Raptors employ with the trade deadline approaching? 62.5% of the votes have gone to trade assets for Giannis. So in your hypothetical, that was RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and draft picks. No one gave a sniff to trading assets for John Morant. They know that
they know the character.
Yeah, there's problems there. Quarter of the people said, "Hey, you know what? Let's trade Pirtle and RJ to New York. Let's get Cat." Personally, I wouldn't do that. I'm not a Cat fan. I don't think he's good enough down low in defense.
Think you're right. I think that would be a tough one. That would be a tough one to justify.
And the remainder of the people, 12.5%, said stay the course.
So people want something to happen, Josh. That's interesting because as we talked about in trying to make the case on my end, certainly to just stay the course as opposed to take the big jump to try to get Giannis. Well, you know what? You guys might be a lot smarter than me, and I don't doubt that for a second. The thought of Giannis Antetokounmpo being in a Raptors uniform, quite delicious in a lot of ways, but probably highly unlikely that it will happen. Stranger things have happened, a la Nico Harrison trading Luka Doncic. That's the strangest of them all. NBA legend, who did we get nominated?
The nomination this week was from Scary D, who said Steph Curry changed the game.
You are, Scary D, you are 100% right. No player in the 21st century has impacted the game of basketball singularly in the way that Steph Curry has. He has changed the way that the game is seen and played to the point now where the NBA is trying to find ways, and are finding ways, quite frankly, to pull back from the massive amount of threes that are taken now. But it's all because of Steph Curry. Steph Curry and the wisdom of his coach, Steve Kerr, to see that Steph Curry not only could make threes, but he could make threes from outrageous distances, off the dribble, with hands in his face. He was able to single-handedly demonstrate the power and the potential of the three-point shot. And what is exciting about it, Josh, is at age 37, he's still doing it today and doing it at such a high level. I was looking at the numbers of how many threes Steph has made in his career, and I believe it's 1,000 more than James Harden, who's in second place. So I think just like John Stockton's record for steals and assists, probably a record that if it's ever broken, it's not going to be for a long, long time.
Yeah, Steph Curry has 922 more made threes than James Harden does, who is second.
That's a lot. That's a big gap. Harden's not going to do it, obviously. I think they're about the same age. So I don't think that Harden's going to have an extended period beyond Steph's retirement. And Steph, if he stays healthy, he has at least 2 to 4 more years where he can be effective in the NBA. Harden is having a great season as well in the resurgent Clippers. I think he's playing the best basketball of his career because he is really embraced being a facilitator and less aggressive in trying to create and make his own shot happen all the time. So Steph Curry, I think it's his, like I mentioned, like John Stockton in a couple of categories, that you just can't see that happening. After we sign off today, I'm going to share my playlist with you. I'd invite people, if you weren't able to listen to our entire show, you can listen to us on podcast, on your favorite podcast provider, and also on YouTube. You can watch our show as well. So, Josh, is there anything happening right now in the NBA that you think people should take note of? Is it the trade deadline? Is that the big story? Or, in your opinion, is that kind of a yawn? And we just have to see who comes back from injuries, such as most notably Nikola Jokic? Or is there anything else that you see in the NBA that you think people should pay special attention to?
Yeah. Pay attention to the trade deadline always. The NBA is insane. Like, there's always the most action. Low tide, on the station here. He says it's the most entertaining league from a front office standpoint because like so much stuff can happen. It's like that's what always a must pay attention to, especially with Rich Paul now telling the Mavericks that he expects them to trade Anthony Davis before the deadline. So,
Rich, that's quite a story actually about LeBron being pulled into the soap opera that is the LA Lakers, and Rich Paul on his podcast being very, very outspoken, and a couple of his clients by the name of Doncic and James saying, well, we can't control what our agent says, or Davis rather. We can't control what our agent says, but Paul is being very outspoken, and I would say kind of right on the cusp of inappropriately so.
Yeah, I agree. That is also something to look into. The whole Rich Paul thing, everything. Or obviously, we heard earlier this week that like when the Lakers sold, it was because Jeannie Buss like fired everybody,
including lots of family members.
Yep,
I'd love to see Thanksgiving in the Buss household right now.
It's interesting, and like cited that Rich Paul was very, very hands-on in how he wanted the team run, and it's just like I have some issues with that. You're an agent. Let the teams run a team.
100%. By the way, on Monday night, there is an unbelievably good college basketball matchup, and it ties directly into two teams that we mentioned quite a bit when we were talking with Kevin Lehman, and that is Arizona, number 1, undefeated, squaring off against BYU. And I think that's going to be a fantastic game. That's in the evening on Monday evening. Check that one out. That's worth watching. That music is David's song. That's by my son, written and performed by my son, Ben, with his band, Worst Days Down. And as I mention every week, we lost Ben going on 3 years ago and miss him horribly every day. But in honoring Ben and his life and the kindness that he displayed to people, particularly those who were in trouble in their lives, who were less fortunate, be kind to your fellow man. Think the best of them. Find a way to be generous and kind. Find a way to be able to tell those that you love that you do love them, and keep those that are precious and special in your life close to you, and be kind to your fellow man, as I said before. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a great show. Josh, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. It's always a pleasure being in here with you. I'm looking forward to next week.
Same here. People enjoy the football tomorrow. It's going to be fantastic. Wasn't that a game between Indiana and Miami for the college football championships? And there's great college basketball along with NBA coming up this week. We'll be back with you next Saturday here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Your all-access pass to the world of sports is Edmonton's only sports radio station.
From pre- and post-game hockey shows to in-depth analysis,